I just love the contrast of two trees. It just lets us know that in life, we always have a choice. Sometimes in life, we might think that we don't have choices, but even in the Garden of Eden, right? God gave them a choice to obey Him or to not obey Him. And so we always have this choice within us in order to do God's will by obeying His written word. And so sometimes we don't necessarily hear His word or understand His word because it goes against maybe what we might want or desire. And so there's always a choice as to whether or not we're going to listen to the voice of God or follow our own way. Because it really is the motive of our hearts. Is there a temptation within us that leads us to not listen to God, or are we going to obey Him because we completely trust in Him? And so a lot of times there is this tug and pull as to whether or not God can be trusted. Do we trust Him enough in order to obey Him, or do we have to follow our own way long enough to know that it's not the correct way in order for us to be humbled in order to follow Him and listen to Him, to obey Him? God desires obedience, and it's His primary love language. And so it's learning how to humble ourselves and say, God, I know you created me. I know you have your best intentions for me. And so I'm going to listen to you even though I don't understand. That comes with a humbling of our hearts in order to surrender our own ways, to die to our flesh, and come to a relationship, an intimate relationship with Him. Because it's learning to trust Him in what He says or already has said in the Bible in order for us to move from faith to faith. It takes action in order for us to believe and trust in Him. So God gives Adam the command. He says, you may freely eat the fruit of every tree in the garden, except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Right? It wasn't that God was withholding something back from Adam and Eve. It was that their eyes would be open to the things that wasn't intended for them to see. But yet they still had a choice on whether or not they would listen to God. And that is what we all have to wrestle out within ourselves. Are we going to listen to God and what He tells us to do to live in righteousness and holiness? Or are we going to disobey Him and challenge Him and reject His word and do it anyways to see what the outcome might be? So it's not living in God's best for us, but yet the enemy will tempt us in order for us to live unholy because he doesn't have the gift of salvation. And so we will get into that later, but it's an understanding that God has His best intentions for us when we choose to listen to Him at His word, His written word that He's already said. So when Adam disobeys God, it's not that he died a physical death, because we all know he still lived, but he ended up dying a spiritual death. It created distance between him and God in a relationship that now cursed the ground. And so it is knowing that there are consequences to our disobedience to God and understanding that God might tell us something that we have no full comprehension of, right? Because Adam didn't understand that it was going to be a spiritual death when he still disobeyed God and he still lived.